I can talk about gut health, meaning the health of our digestive system, for so many reasons. But today, I want to focus on mental health. There are so many people suffering mental health problems like anxiety and depression. And there are many sources, of course, that can bring mental health problems. But there is a big source that I believe is so overlooked, and it has quite a simple fix. So therefore, I think it's important that one of my first videos goes about gut health in relation to mental health. You see, there are a lot of ways that we can destroy our gut and our gut health. But even when we would not do so, just the fact that we have chronic disease means that there is a low-grade inflammation in our body. It's systemic low-grade inflammation. It's all over the body. Sometimes it localizes in further stages, it localizes, but there is a low-grade inflammation present, so also in the gut. If there's a low-grade inflammation in the gut, then means that there is an unbalance of the microbiome. And the microbiome is essential not only for digestion, just to live, to be alive. So we need a good microbiome, and even if it's not that it is detrimental to our health, a good microbiome can also help us reverse chronic disease. Now, what happens when there's low-grade inflammation in the gut? That means that we destroy our microbes in our gut, but that we also add to the inflammation because there's a signal coming from the microbes to our body. Hey, something is wrong. We have to fight it. Defense systems go on, and inflammation starts to increase. Now, when there's no resolution, then the more damage occurs in our whole body, but also in our gut. So when we have inflammation in our belly, then we may think that it stays in the belly, but that is not the case. So what is the case? I have this great stick figure picture here with the gut microbiome. And what happens is if this part is inflamed, it directly goes to the brain. So there's a direct signal, not an indirect signal, a direct signal to the brain, and meaning that the brain gets the signal for inflammation as well. And then the brain gets inflamed. Well, that sounds serious, and it is serious. Well, in the beginning, there will be quite little symptoms, like we may have a headache, we may have some brain fog, like we cannot think clearly, things that come from the outside to us may seem like overwhelm, but then it gets a little bit more serious. And from that overwhelm and brain fog, we can often see anxiety coming and depression, which are very, very serious issues. It depends on in which region of the brain this inflammation occurs. And the inflammation goes to the neurons, so the brain cells, but also to the blood vessels. And when we can talk about specific diseases. So it's really in an evolved stage already, this inflammation. We talk about Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or a stroke. So it is so important that we keep a good gut health. Now, it doesn't mean that the source of all those symptoms and diseases that are coming from neuroinflammation are originating from the gut. That doesn't have to be that way. But for sure, when there is inflammation in the gut, that signal will go to the brain and the brain will get inflamed because of the inflammation in our belly. So it may be the originator of these problems, or it may be an add-on, but for sure, it's important that this part at least we get under control, because this part at least we can have, let's say, for 95% under our control. So what are big belly destroyers, the microbiome destroyers? Well, it could be pollution from outside in a small amount, or maybe the pesticides in our food, so toxins that coming from outside in. It may be medication like antibiotics that are destroying our microbes in our gut. But primarily, it is our pro-inflammatory food that we get. Now, what is pro-inflammatory food? It's food that induces inflammation by itself. So it has the ability to induce inflammation in our gut. Typically, that are sugars, animal products, and processed foods. That are the three main categories of things that we can quite easily control. And especially when there are huge consequences, not only for the rest of our body, but for now, in this video, we focus on mental health. It has huge implications on mental health. Actually, there's a double whammy here. Because when we, by whatever means, but let's say we eat pro-inflammatory foods and we destroy part of that microbiome, and there is a low-grade inflammation present that doesn't go away, there is a continuous signal to the brain of inflammation. Neurons and blood vessels get inflamed. And therefore, there's a high probability that that person who experiences that experiences anxiety and depression, fear-based feelings, fear-based thoughts. Now, these fear-based thoughts and feelings, they are a signal in itself, because when the brain perceives any danger, it signals for inflammation down, inducing low-grade inflammation in the body, so also in the gut. So then it becomes a vicious cycle, a loop, a chronic loop of disease. And then it doesn't end with mental health issues. And that's what we often see. So we see that people with mental health issues for a longer period of time get physical symptoms, and people with physical chronic disease get mental health problems. Now, again, there are many sources for developing chronic disease and developing mental health issues. But this is a proven loop, and that's what we have to be aware of. So what can we do about it? We can hack it. We can hack the loop. We have to interrupt the loop. So the thing to do is avoid everything that is pro-inflammatory. Now, it's quite easy to say, just avoid fear-based thoughts and feelings because those are pro-inflammatory. Well, we all know that is not the easiest path and maybe also not the point to start. Let's start at an easier starting point, and that is avoiding pro-inflammatory foods and drinks. That means sugary drinks, sugary foods. It does not mean we do not have that we cannot eat fruits because they are sugary. Most of people think it's so sugary. Yeah, there is some sugar in it, but we mean the refined sugars, the added sugars, the things that are typically white. So white bread, white rice, everything with added sugar, and that's almost everything that is processed. Now, you can start looking at packages. It will be a fun thing to do, though, because then you will be surprised if you haven't done so already, what's in it. Probably a lot of things that you would never recognize. The thing is that we do not want to have sugars or additives or anything that causes inflammation. And yes, it's a good thing to be very aware of what you're consuming. So look at the ingredients list. However, if you do not have the energy for that, because if your body already is inflamed, probably you'll have some energy issues, some tiredness as well. Start with fresh foods, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits. So they're quite easy to start with. I mean, just pick a fruit or make a nice salad or just a simple vegetable dish, and it directly will feel lighter to you in your belly. But the thing is that you reduce inflammation, but are also feeding the gut microbes. They need fiber. And when you start to do that and you reduce the inflammation in your gut, you will reduce the inflammation in your brain. So the inflammation in your neurons and in your blood vessels. And that will help a lot with a lot of neuroinflammatory diseases, but also with your brain fog. You will get more clarity of mind, and probably and hopefully you feel better with less anxiety and less depression and more hope and more passion, more creativity, and just more joy. See you next time.